What's wrong with you? Sit your ass down. Sit down. Shut up. What up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Danny, and welcome to another Danny Divine Show. We are going to talk about the Snow White debacle. Weird. I always love that shit. We're going to talk about Snow White, the downfall of the latest Snow White movie. This one woman destroyed the whole movie. She just keep talking and talking. But anyway, we're going to listen to what some of my favorite people are saying about this. Let's go.
I came into 2023 in pieces.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Very evidently so. My God.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a
Weird. Imagine you are Disney and you're not going to see the girl like, this girl needs to. Before they even start filming this stuff and she's saying this stuff, they should have sacked her. They should have literally sacked her and get somebody else. Cause she's gonna be a $200 and something million disaster.
love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. Like, who has been the most exciting person for you tonight?
Oh my God.
Besides me.
Took the words out of my mouth.
She's going to be her own downfall. She talks too much. Not saying here that women aren't allowed to speak. Sometimes it's good not to be the loudest person in the room.
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Dirterotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million hellions and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. You know, we human beings are capable of some pretty basic functions like tying our shoes, putting on our pants, and going to the bathroom. But I think it's time we talk about some people who might have a hard time doing that. Because a lot of people at Disney who just so happened to make a lot of money thought it was a good idea to remake the animated classic Snow White into live action.
We have a lot of fun diving into our expansive library spanning nearly 100 years to bring beloved tales to life in new ways for today's viewers.
Oh, here we go again.
While this would explain a lot that's wrong in the world today, it should still be deeply disturbing. As disturbing as these CGI dwarves that, thankfully based on box office projections, aren't going to give that many kids nightmares because parents love their children and they won't take them to see it. But for the ones that do, don't say I didn't warn you. You would think this ill-advised live-action remake of the animated Disney classic Snow White couldn't be worse than the best documented, worst PR disaster in Hollywood history. I gotta give them credit because they descended past my already lowered expectations.
Gosh, that's a bad sign. What'll we do?
But wait a minute, the first social media reactions from people who were handpicked by Disney at an unprecedented premiere where the media wasn't allowed to ask questions said Snow White was a visual feast and Rachel Zegler was a shining supernova.
I think I can smell shite.
We were also told that Snow White is not only one of their best live-action remakes in years, but it's also a film that recaptures the magic of the 1937 movie.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
This unfortunately led to the Daily Beast serving up one of their editorial interns to write this article. Sorry haters, Disney's Snow White movie is apparently good. This poor intern goes on to say Disney faced backlash after casting Rachel Zegler, a Latino actress, as Snow White, angering far-right racists who took issue with her portrayal as the fairest of them all. Maybe this was some sort of hazing ritual at the Daily Beast. Your guess is as good as mine, but that headline didn't age very well. Now, nothing says a studio has confidence in their film like lifting a review embargo 24 hours before its release, but when it did, look at all them bigots. At time of recording, it's at 46% from the very friendly corporate critics and 27% from the top critics. So after 2 years of an unmitigated public relations disaster, including but not limited to backlash against Gal Gadot, Peter Dinklage pissing off a bunch of dwarves, the now on-brand Disney massive reshoots and ballooning budgets, and of course the poster child for everything that's wrong in modern Hollywood, Rachel Zegler. How was the movie? Well, considering how long I've put off talking about it, it should be obvious. It was shit. Dare I say boring, soulless, and subversive creatively bankrupt corporate drivel. Remember, we were told this recaptures the magic of the original 1937 Snow White that launched Disney.
And yet it really doesn't.
All right, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. To be fair, it's only missing a couple of things from the original. The narrative, the creativity, the charm, the iconic look of the dwarves, the personality of those cute little animated animals, the song I'm Wishing and Someday My Prince Will Come. Speaking of that, it's also missing the prince and Snow White. In its place, we got a good old girl boss film infused with communist propaganda in a kid's movie. And believe me, they don't waste any time. They hit us with it within the first few lines of the film. In the beginning, when they explain that Snow White's benevolent parents wanted to rule the kingdom for the free and fair, and the bounty of the land belonged to all who tended it. And it was so prevalent, even the BBC of all places thought it was too much. What's so unique about Disney's Snow White is that it seems as if some of the producers wanted to make a good old-fashioned tribute to the feudal fairy tale, and others wanted to make a revisionist Marxist call to arms. Just in case you thought it was only me. As far as the plot goes, well, hell, everyone knows the story of Snow White. Jealous of Snow White's beauty, the wicked queen orders the murder of her innocent stepdaughter who just wants to find herself a good man, but later discovers that Snow White is still alive and hiding in a cottage with 7 friendly little miners. Disguising herself as a hag, the queen brings a poisoned apple to Snow White, who falls into a death-like sleep that can only be broken by a kiss from the prince. Except that is in this movie.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
Not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader.
Why change what was already good? Why? Just because you want to change it.
She knows she can be.
For some reason, Gal Gadot is jealous of Rachel Zegler's beauty. The wicked queen orders the murder of her not-so-innocent stepdaughter, whose only wish is to be a girl boss, but later discovers that Snow White is still alive.
If she's an ugly witch, man, I'll date her all the time because she's an ugly, beautiful witch. You know what I mean? You know, that girl, she's more beautiful than the princess. Normally, the princess is hotter, but the witch, who's supposed to be ugly,
Alive and hiding in a cottage bossing around 7 nightmarish demons, one who looks like the hate child of Alfred E. Newman and John Campea, and some smelly hippies from Hate Street.
I love that description. It's perfect.
Disguising herself as a hag, the queen brings a poisoned apple, who's everyone's favorite character in this movie, to Snow White, who falls into a death-like sleep, and if it ended there, that would be great. Unfortunately, it doesn't. That death-like sleep can be broken by a former actor she wants to hook up with, not a prince, who later helps her form a resistance to take back the communist utopia she was always destined to lead. You know, I really hope we get a redistribution of wealth Happy Meal out of this movie with a toy hammer and sickle, and maybe they can print the Communist Manifesto on my cheeseburger wrapper. In all seriousness, one of my favorite things in the world is when a multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation that thanks concentration camps in China lectures us about the evils of capitalism. And yes, they got rid of the I'm Wishing and Someday My Prince Will Come song, and I didn't think about the title of that until now. Well, there ain't no prince coming in this one. Also, they can replace it with some feminist song about wanting to lead.
So will she rise or bow her head? Will she lead or just be led?
And to echo what some critics have said, including some that I trust and like, Rachel Zegler can certainly sing generic Disney trash. And to be fair, I'm not a fan of musicals, in particular Disney musicals, and even when the songs are considered good, they make me want to stick pencils in my ear. That being said, listening to the music in this movie made me miss Prison. And as far as the characters are concerned, some will be remembered until the end of time in ways that Disney did not intend, but most of them will be forgotten by the time you get to the car. If you go, which I wouldn't recommend you do. We can start with the only single character that didn't do an injustice to the 1937's original, the Magic Mirror. Although now that I think about it, technically that's not entirely true because there are a couple of minor inconsistencies involving scenes with the Magic Mirror, including a major character getting a famous line wrong.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
You had one job. Just the one.
And for some inexplicable reason, they cut out the Magic Mirror's description of Snow White.
Lips red as the rose, hair black as ebony, skin white as snow.
When it comes to the fairest of them all, while in the Grimm's fairy tale original, Snow White's beauty surpasses her stepmother's when she's 7.
Weird.
That shit there, what she did, it's going to haunt her forever. They're going to use that in everything she does. She destroyed this movie. She's gonna pay for it because in the future, people who want to work with her, they're gonna like, if we spend 200 million on this girl, and she start opening her mouth, saying stuff that she shouldn't say, we're going to lose money. Like what Disney has done is Disney just took 200 million and 200 something million, just put it in. They just burned their own cash. God, Disney got money anyway. Disney got money to lose.
Day Alabama and most countries in Africa and the Middle East. Okay, Alabama, I'm just kidding. In Disney's version for a modern audience, it's when Snow White frees a potato thief and has a social justice awakening. Speaking of the potato thief, that's
social justice warrior. I hate liberals. I hate liberals so much.
Replacement for the prince, who is now a black-pilled former actor and the leader of the bandits, who were obviously cast in this movie based on their skill and not their identity. And this goes for the townspeople as well. And don't you dare mention things like quotas, because we all know, according to modern historians, this is what medieval Germany looked like. This brings us to the huntsman, who admittedly they changed just a little bit, but his actions are pretty true to the original, at least in the beginning. On the orders of the evil queen, he takes Snow White out to pick apples, and then he's supposed to kill her. But as he has his knife to Snow White's chest, he is overwhelmed by Rachel Zegler's beauty and kindness. And while the audience was collectively saying,
"Do it. What are you waiting for? Do it. Kill her."
But ultimately, the huntsman disappoints the audience and lets her go. But I have to say, after rewatching the original, one of the biggest character downgrades is the animals, who were a major part of the original. Now they're reduced to CGI abominations. I was half expecting the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to come down and start experimenting on them, and I'd be for it. Still, one could argue that they had more personality than the humans. Speaking of CGI abominations, let's talk about the dwarves. Saying that they are the stuff of nightmares is underselling it. They went full MODOK on this one, except this time there's 7. A couple of them look like variations of my co-host on Friday Night Tights Comics Division. One looks like George Lopez, and I can't decide on this one. Dopey looks like either John Campea or that kid from the Galactic Star Cruiser video. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Alls I know is, as a grateful recovering addict who's done his share of mind-altering substances, don't do drugs, kids. But if I had hallucinated something like this in the past, I'd have gotten sober sooner. And what the hell was Disney thinking? An argument can be made that the dwarves are more iconic than Snow White. But this is what happens when you listen to Peter Dinklage and play the game of identity politics. Everyone loses.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
The consequences of which cost 7 actors their jobs and Disney millions in CGI. And a quick reminder, as I said in the beginning of the video, a lot of people who make a lot of money thought this was a good idea. And those are the same people who thought Gal Gadot could act.
Pies are luxuries. They don't need luxuries. It confuses them.
Listen, I've got nothing against her, and she's obviously beautiful, and there's no point in this film where I don't think she's the fairest one of them all, which is only enhanced when she's in her evil queen outfit. Don't judge me. But I don't want to be unfair to her acting skills, because she's equally as bad at musical numbers.
Imagine there's no hell. Our exhibit.
But one could say there is some ironic enjoyment in all of her scenes.
All right, sip it.
And the cast is rounded out by Rachel Zegler, and what can be said that hasn't already been said over the last 2 years of this unintentionally hilarious PR catastrophe, which makes it impossible for anyone who is even slightly aware of this to suspend their disbelief. And now that I've seen the film, I can definitively say she wasn't worth the trouble. The best I could say is she can sing bad songs well. And as far as her performance is concerned, while her character doesn't earn anything or stand out in any way, it's as bland as drinking a room temperature glass of water in a beige room on a cloudy day. And Rachel Zegler's Snow White had about as much chemistry with the usurper potato thief Jonathan as she did with Gal Gadot at the Oscars. You can just feel the love between those two. So after all is said and done, big shocker, Snow White is a terrible movie. And it's
People are not feeling this movie at all.
It's not like Disney wasn't telling us over the last 2 years exactly what this movie would be, and they were proud of it up until very recently. In turn, it's not like the audience wasn't telling Disney exactly what they thought of it in the comments section of all those ratioed trailers. And it's just the latest in a very long line of predictable Disney failures. How predictable, you ask? Well, it turns out that the audience, or potential audience, or lost audience in this case, was right again. Box office Snow White limps to an alarming 43 million domestic opening, 87.3 million globally, which is 2 million less than the domestic opening for Tim Burton's Dumbo, which came in at 45 million in 2019 without adjusting for inflation, and it was a flop.
Who's the Disney character you identify with most? Mickey, Nemo, Peter Pan, or Dumbo? Dumbo. That's sad, but yeah, like...
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
And I can already hear the criticisms of my criticisms for the 5s and 10s of people who will enjoy this piece of content, and bless you if you do. It wasn't made for you, it's for kids, and it's a fairy tale. We'll start with, it wasn't made for me, and you'd be absolutely right, but somehow in the past I've managed to enjoy some films that weren't made for me. Just off the top of my head, Love Actually, Clueless, The Devil Wears Prada, and the best movie I've seen in the last calendar year, which also happens to be one of the biggest flops, Better Man. Then there's the it's for kids argument. Well, of course it is, but it doesn't mean it has to be dumbed down to window licker status. The question I would have for you is, why do you hate kids when we know Disney really loves them? That being said, again, if you love your children, don't take them to this movie unless you want to punish them. But if you do, don't be surprised if somebody calls Child Protective Services because it's borderline abuse. And finally, it's the fairy tale for girls. Yep, and so is a communist utopia. But you all know why these are bullshit arguments, because there are a couple of things that can propel conceptually a soulless piece of garbage into something good. Quality and authenticity, and there's none of that here or in Hollywood. While Snow White and the Seven Dwarves encapsulates everything that was right with Disney, the 2025 Snow White encapsulates everything that's wrong with it. The beautifully animated wishing well scene went from this to this. Whistle While You Work went from this to this. The brilliant ending with the evil queen's death went from this to this. And Snow White went from this to this. Hell, I wouldn't even have seen this movie if it wasn't for the 2-year-long PR disaster that turned this into a well-earned cultural punching bag. And yes, this film would have performed better at the box office, at least during its opening weekend, if Rachel Zegler could have found a way to keep her pie hole shut. And you think it might have performed better if Disney actually had reverence for its own material and made something as authentic to the original as humanly possible, but that didn't happen. And after watching Snow White for a modern audience, one thing is abundantly clear. Disney hates Disney. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Whatever they can destroy. Like these people who are running these companies nowadays are so woke. They just want to be, I want to be inclusive. Nobody cares about that. Just make the movie the way it was made. Just keep the characters the way it was written. Don't change stuff because people who fell in love with that stuff when they were young, they're reading that story to their kids, and now the kids go, but mom, we just finished watching Snow White movie. There was no prince there. She didn't get a kiss from a prince. She was the downfall of this movie. She kept talking and people keep listening and people didn't like what they were hearing. And Disney had all the time to either change some stuff, but they couldn't do that. This could have been a great opportunity for her to just make her career shine. You know what I mean? You know, loved by millions of children, but she just keep talking. It's right, man. It's right. Anyway, my name is Danny. If you like the show, press like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.